Good morning, Tom. Again, own your own health. Today, I'm really excited to introduce somebody I had met and heard his presentation and an interview with Ken Walls. And Own Your Own Health, this platform, my wife and I, we have a wellness center, and we believe alternative care is something people need to know about, and so they can make their own decisions about their health care and that. So today, I'm really excited to bring in my guest, Dr. Jay Shetlin. Hey,
Morning.
doctor. Great to have you here today. I know we got a little bit of a slow start here, but with a little bit of technology things going on. But I'm really excited to have you here. What you shared in a previous interview with Ken, I said I got to have this gentleman on because you speak my language. People need to hear the message that you have. And as we move forward here, I just want to make sure everybody's tagging and sharing this information out there because we don't know who it's going to touch and to make a difference in somebody's lives with this. So with that, Jay, it's all yours. I always like to start out, a little bit about yourself, a little bit of your background, where you're born and raised, where you are today, your story, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into what you want to talk about today. So it's all yours, doctor.
Well, I'm somewhat of a nomad. I was born in San Diego and then went to Washington State, both Spokane and Seattle, when I was younger. That's when I actually got into, I would say that's when I got into physical health and fitness. Was actually electrocuted in the fourth grade, and in my fourth grade mind back then, when Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno were the biggest thing on TV as the Incredible Hulk, I thought in my little fourth grade mind that I'd been gamma rayed. So I thought, wow, I'm going to be buff when I'm angry. Again, this is a fourth grade boy mind right here. I thought, wow, I'm going to be buff when I'm angry. I'll be more buff when I'm angry if I'm already buff. And I just started doing all kinds of sit-ups and push-ups and chin-ups. Just went nuts with that stuff. I mean, as a fourth grader, I'd do 240 push-ups a day. It's ridiculous. But that led into the health stuff. But oddly, the next year, my mom was in a car accident. And I just remember going with her to therapy and her saying, this chiropractic stuff seems to be helping me the best for my recovery from these car accident injuries. And it just left a really strong impression on me. Like, wow, I want to help people. No drugs, no needles, and helping people feel like they're getting their life back and their health back. And it just left a strong impression on me. I don't even remember what the chiropractor looked like at the, back then, but that started me on the course. And I just knew I was going to be a chiropractic physician from that day forward and just went for it. And what's nice is I've had a very global perspective in healthcare. I lived in Asia for 3 years. I lived and practiced as a physician in Europe, in Portugal for a couple of years. And then, of course, have practiced and lived in the States as a physician. And so I've got I think a unique perspective on the behind the scenes, the reality of what healthcare is, whether we call it healthcare or mislabel it as healthcare when it's really disease care, as we do in America. It's just been a very interesting journey, and they call it practice for a reason because you're always learning and growing in practice, doing the best you can to serve your patients because the Hippocratic Oath, first do no harm. You want to help them, not hurt them. And I take that very seriously. And I try to hang out with like-minded physicians, medical doctors, chiropractors, DOs, psychologists that think the same way, that actually, and I think that's taking that framework and thinking for themselves and how to best apply their personal skills and education to help that patient, not following some flow chart that is handed down from some 3-letter entity telling us and dictating to us how to treat patients. I think that's a very sick system. So anyway, now you're caught up to me and where I'm at right now. I love practice. I love serving my community the best I can. Philosophically, education-wise, I'm very education-oriented for my patients, as well as healthcare-wise. So there you go.
Well, you said a couple things I just want to build on. You had the opportunity to experience different, I would call it cultures, about perspective of how to manage our health. In Asia, the whole different culture, different modalities that a lot of times when they've been introduced here to the United States and into our medical system, they have been poo-pooed or poo-fooed or whatever you want to call it, pushed down, minimized, trying to squash that, and I know chiropractors went through that challenge for a long, long time. And so that gave you some better perspective of bringing a new level of awareness to your practice, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's been an interesting thing. And if we just break down some of the looks at that, for example, we look at ancient Asia, the village doctor was paid a small fee by the village people per month to keep them healthy. Well, when they got sick, the doctor's paycheck stopped until they were healthy again. Now that's a healthcare structure to me, rather than how much, you're scared because you're sick and you're injured. How much can I milk it while you're in this fear-driven, how do I get better model? I think that's a very broken and sick model, and that's not healthcare. That's disease care. That's crisis care, and and I'm not saying this to pick on our system. I think America has the best crisis or injury and rehab system on the planet, hands down. I mean, our when there's a car accident and an ambulance comes and the fire trucks come, and the training is stellar. Our emergency rooms, our surgeons, stellar. But when we try to take a square peg, disease care, and fit it into this round hole of healthcare, it doesn't work. We try to use our insurance in America to be healthy, and it's never going to work. It's a reactive system. Healthcare is proactive. So if we're saying, healthcare, I want to go to the chiropractor or get a massage or buy organic fruits and vegetables, our healthcare or insurance, our disease care insurance is never going to cover that. And we keep trying to force it, but it doesn't work that way. We need to reframe and look at our insurance, this disease care insurance or crisis care insurance, like our auto insurance. Auto insurance doesn't pay for oil changes. It doesn't pay for fluid flushes. It doesn't pay for new tires. It pays for when you wreck the car, or it's damaged beyond repair, or it's damaged and needs repair. That's when it is that we pay for it every month, but we pay a small amount, not some huge amount like we do for our healthcare, right? So when we start looking at health insurance in the right model, again, the right nomenclature would be disease insurance or crisis care insurance.
Yeah,
it's not so bad. I'm grateful to have insurance if I blow out a kidney or I get, I need colon surgery or something. That's what it's there for. But it's not there to keep me healthy. It's to help me get back on the road after a huge crisis.
Yeah, our insurance, like you said, the car insurance, to try to bring you back to the original state, back to wholeness. Repaired the car, repaired the house, whatever the case may be. And many times it doesn't even take care of it all the way. Right. But so you're really hitting some points here. Is I'm grateful that if I break a leg or get in an automobile accident, I know that we have, like you said, the best in the world in that. But what people don't realize, and is that our quality of life is in our hands. It's really about education. We need to know more about what a healthy lifestyle that comes from hydration, understand how important that is in our health, our nutrition. And unfortunately, our food sources is not providing what we need as human beings. Supplementation, how to do that properly, exercise, emotional work, how we think about our health, it goes a long ways. And then understanding how to create a quality life through a lifestyle. And I think that's what part of what Own Your Own Health is we got to look what we are doing, and that's creating the crisis that we're in today.
Correct.
And then a lot of it can be reversed with the proper modalities, the proper, guidance and those type of things. And I think that's what I'm about here with Own Your Own Health, is that we live in a culture where nearly 70% of the population has a chronic condition of some sort. By compliance, because the company I'm associated with, I can't say certain things. So I will use vague words to describe some things there. So with that, you saw some benefit from your mom. That's got you as a young person. I understand that, experience what that did, it planted the seed. So when did you really, so you went to, where did you go to school? I know I looked at your resume. We can talk for an hour on your background, but what are some of the things that have driven you in your education to get, like you said, always getting better, learning more? So the ideal situation is what? Not have them come back to you. Isn't that the ideal situation if you're?
Well, I think that's where people find chiropractic funny, or maybe they get a little gun shy with chiropractic. Like, I always ask new patients, what good and bad things have you heard about chiropractic?
Yeah.
Oh, I heard that it's addictive, and once you start, you have to keep coming. I'm like, well, not really. It's, if you're addicted to health, yeah, because you what happens is you realize, wow, I feel better. I'm sleeping better. I have more energy. I'm digesting my food better. Why would you not want to do that? So then I compare it to saying, oh, well, I hear vegetables are addicting because once you start eating them and feeling healthier, of course, well, that's a good thing. Oh, the gym's addictive. People, this is what I love about chiropractic. They think of us as pain or back and neck pain doctors, when we're nerve specialists. We're neurologists. We just use natural means to help your body and brain communicate properly rather than drugs or surgery. We remove nerve interference so that innate intelligence can function at its best. So you can digest better. You can balance your hormones better. You can get better sleep. All kinds of amazing things happen when we free up that nervous system. And so then I ask patients, I go, well, they're like, well, I just want to come in for a couple of visits to the chiropractor. I'm like, okay, how many visits did it take Arnold Schwarzenegger to get the way he wanted to be at the gym? And then once he reached it, did he just stop going to the gym, or did he maintain his health at the gym? The human body responds to stimulus over time, like muscle memory. It takes frequency over time. Well, in order for us to keep good spinal hygiene, we have to stay properly aligned. We have 24 bones stacked on each other. It's kind of like going to the dentist and saying, oh, well, I only want to come in for this or that. Well, the dentist has to do the workup and then help you with good dental hygiene. He's going to say, look, now that we fixed this problem that brought you in, this cavity or root canal or whatever you needed, that was expensive because it was crisis care. But now let's get you back to wellness care with brushing and flossing and regular checkups. And I don't care how much we brush or floss, every time we go to the dentist, they're going to find junk to scrape off of our teeth. It's part of living on planet Earth. Well, going to the chiropractor, we're going to say, for good spinal hygiene, you got to stretch, you got to exercise. But there's still, every time you come in, we're still going to find something that's misaligned and stuck, because we live on a planet with gravity, with 24 bones stacked on each other. We're sleeping in weird positions. We're climbing in and out of cars. We're lifting up boxes and kids. It's going to happen. So we want to be proactive by maintaining our spinal hygiene. And the benefits of that are so much more than just neck and back pain. That's what I love about, I've seen some crazy stuff in my days, like patients that were referred in from other patients that said, oh yeah, I'm referring my friend Sally, who she just had headaches for the last 3 months, just brutal headaches. Well, I started talking to Sally and she says, yeah, I'm here for these headaches because my friend recommended me. And as I get through her history, it's like, yeah, we're in the final stages of adopting 2 kids from China because we haven't been able to get pregnant for the last 10 years. And 2 months of care for her headaches, and she's pregnant because now the brain and body are communicating properly. There was some hiccup and where her reproductive organs were not functioning properly because of nerve interference, and yet voila, that wasn't from the headache or the back pain. It was because there was a lack of communication from that innate intelligence. And once we free that up, the body self-regulates and does its thing. So key point here, I want to point out the chiropractor did not get her pregnant. It was just a matter of removing nerve interference. and her and her husband were able to get pregnant. So now she has 2 adopted kids and their own natural born child as well. So those are cool stories that I've seen over the course of this profession for 23 years of doing this.
Yeah, and I know you're an advocate for in many associations and causes, and what's your mission around some of the affiliations you have and the organizations you've been involved with? What is the driving force to be involved in because you being in practice, I'm sure that can keep you really busy. Now you do all these other things to get the message out. What are some of the places you like getting this information out? Just share some of the associations you're with and what you do.
Well, I love helping my state association. I love helping other state associations across the country for chiropractic. I love building the bonds and bridges between the medical and chiropractic profession. There was a time where it was very antagonistic when I first got out of practice. Got a UPS package trying to drop off while I'm doing an interview here. Sorry, I'm on a call. Oh man, that's funny.
Jay, I'll put you in the back room. Go handle it, and I'll just cover a couple of things for you.
All right,
Take care of that. That's one of the things about being live is that you never know what's going to come up, whether it be technology. But something I always recommend people to know is that we look at our healthcare system and we wonder why we don't know more. But there's a lot of forces behind the scenes around politics and those type of things. Like Jay was talking about when chiropractor came in, there was a lot of pushback, a lot of political and regulatory pushback on that. And we need to understand that as consumers, who's controlling the flow of information? And then we need to do our own research and find out whether it's chiropractic, do your research. Whether it's nutrition, do your research. Because it's really important that when you get the information, you're in control of what you're doing. Jay, what I did is I was talking about, you mentioned something about being a chiropractor was, a lot of pressure came down from the regulatory, the insurance, the state regulatory, the medical field really tried to squash it, right? In many different ways. And I always like to reference this because I believe in education. Why don't I know about XYZ in healthcare? And many times it's controlled by entities bigger than us. And so I highly encourage people to read this book so they become aware and start asking questions of their practitioners, whatever it is, because the more questions answered, you're going to have better choices. So that's basically what I did when you did your UPS check-in. So,
thanks. So I think it's important for the public to be educated, and most of us just don't take the time. If we're watching the news to get educated on health and decisions, we're already at a huge loss because that is all funded. I mean, everything on the news. I'm on the news regularly, doing health promotion stuff, but they still ask me to pay to be on the news. Everything is pay to play that we watch on TV. So even though I'm doing a community service of educating on health and well-being, it's pay to play. So anything on the news, which you watch the news a half an hour, you're going to see 8 to 12 medical, drug commercials. They are funded by big pharma to run the news. And I'm just a little guy. I don't want to paint some target on my back against big pharma or something. But look, they're a business and they're in the business of making money, and they do that by pushing products. And we've seen in the last couple of years that there was a big drive to push products through fear and all kinds of stuff that now they're even trying to pass the COVID vaccine, which we just found out from Parliament last week that it wasn't even tested for its efficacy and safety and stuff before it was put into the population. And here now, all of a sudden, it's on our kids' regular schedule for vaccines. It's mind-blowing to me. And to think, well, how does that happen? It's because of money. It's not about our health. And that's where we come back to a disease care system that is driven by money. So going full circle here, what you're saying, thoughts, traumas, and toxins are the big things that help us, or the big three of things will fit into thoughts, traumas, or toxins are what detour us from optimal health or shorten our lifespan or rob us of quality of life. And we have to get educated as individuals here in America on making better health choices for hydrating, like you talked about, and not making sure we're not getting acidic water. We're keeping good alkaline water. Because if we let our plastic water bottle sit in the car in the summer and get hot, that plastic leaches into the water and we can't see it, we can't taste it, but now it's acidic, making us acidic on the inside, where we're more susceptible to viruses, bacteria, and even cancer. So little steps like that we need to educate ourselves on. And how do we make better healthy choices? What are the right supplements? And I don't know if you've got companies that that support you or you're supporting or promoting, but there are quality supplements and then there's not so quality supplements because it's a widget, somebody trying to sell a widget, and we have to do our homework. Is it full of sugar? Is it full of a bunch of fillers? Is it actually full of what we need? Is it cost effective, and does it taste good enough that we'll actually consume it? So there's finding that balance, because there's some really healthy things out there that just taste horrible, and so you're not going to take them. And there's some real not so great for us things that are labeled that they're good for us, but because they taste so good, we're like taking these nice chewable sugary vitamins or whatever. So we got to educate ourselves and exercise that discipline to take care of this micro universe we're living in on this planet.
Well said, because I think what you said is just ask the questions. And when we say research or do that, I highly recommend in my teaching in our wellness center is that people go to Google. It's just a search, and if you're really looking for validation in whatever you're looking at, use other sources that are real research engines, such as PubMed.gov or some of these other Google Scholar and those. Do you have any thoughts on that as well? Because a lot of times we go to Google, we put something in, and we get who knows where that information came from. What's your thought on what?
Well, I think that's really important that we look beyond a headline of a research article. There were several articles in the last 2 years that I would see the headline, and it's trying to make some pitch for masks or the vaccines or whatever, or trying to disvalidate some drug that we're trying to use off label to help people survive that had outstanding results. And then you would read the actual article itself, and it would say the opposite of what the tag is that they're trying to promote. So you need to deep dive and either go to a trusted source that knows how to read, your doctor that knows how to actually read and look through the articles that they're talking about, or that takes the time to do it, or you need to do it. But we can't trust these flashes that we see on TV, because people just twist stuff like crazy. So that's a great idea to go to those actual sources.
Yeah. And
try to find more than just one source. And there's some great articles out there from 5 years ago, 10 years ago that are very guiding for our health. I still use stuff for research for auto accident injury stuff that's from the 50s to current. There's amazing older research that's still valid. We haven't changed much in 50 years. I think that's one of the interesting things to look at as we look at, sorry, I don't mean to keep circling around this topic, but vaccines and the flu. I mean, we've had the flu vaccine for 70 years. We still have the flu. The vaccine has not gotten rid of the flu, and the vaccines are not going to get rid of other things that are going to pop up that ail us. But our body has an amazing innate intelligence that wants to function optimally. And if we're getting at the right nutrition, we're getting the right sleep, we're avoiding toxins, we're exercising like you're talking about, we're helping to maximize our body to have the best chance of fighting disease, from small infections to cancer and elsewhere. So that's where I love where your train of thought is on, we have to own our own health.
Yeah.
We're the captain of this vessel right here. And if we keep putting our health in the hands of somebody else, sorry, Tom, these are the words that just make me just nauseous to my stomach. Oh, if my insurance doesn't cover it, I can't afford it. Okay, so you bought disease care insurance and it's not going to cover you to be healthy. So now you're just not going to be healthy. You're going to give somebody else the power of your health. We've got to take ownership of our own health. Absolutely.
And I don't know the exact numbers. I've seen different things. You might know it more than me, because the preventive things, lifestyle, buying better quality food that has some nutritional, and exercising, and maybe you have to go to a gym, or some of the things we can do we don't have to spend money for, but we have to invest time and or resources to do that. But I heard this statistic, and I don't know if it's 100% accurate. For every dollar we spend annually in preventive, lifestyle, exercise, nutrition, whatever the case may be, we're saving $50 in the future. So let's say in 10 years, you spend $10,000 to manage a better lifestyle through all the different entities that are out there. That's $50,000 you save, because our healthcare system, like you say, the insurance system, whatever we want to categorize it, it's very expensive. And by not taking care of ourselves, I would rather make that investment and work proactively, taking control of that. Doesn't mean I'm not going to get something, but the chances of me managing that, I'm going to save a lot of money. When you say I can't afford it because it's not covered by my insurance, you really can not afford to take action. Does that make sense? Have you heard any numbers about that?
3 points on that with some numbers. I had a patient at one of my education classes that I do for patients every month. And I was talking about how there's this longitudinal study that shows over the course of our lifetime, now this was a couple decades ago, a person who would spend $33,000 over the course of their lifetime would age more gracefully and end up with fewer or no diseases at the end of their life versus those that are not. They're trying to work so hard and just make money to buy all their gadgets and toys and stuff, and they're not investing in their health. Later, they end up spending more than 10 times that, because then the example was a gal piped up in the back of the room. She goes, I work up at the University Cancer Center, and you're right, spending $33,000 investing in nutrition, maybe chiropractic, gym memberships, vacations, so you can reduce your stress, that kind of stuff. Versus people wait till it's crisis management with something like cancer, and it takes 10 to 12 chemotherapy treatments, which cost between $21,000 and $25,000 per treatment. So then you're looking at $300,000+ versus $33,000 to try to prevent cancer, doing the right things versus waiting till you got it and trying to fight it. And then the scary note on that is it's got like a 13% success rate. I still cannot believe we still use chemotherapy as our main source of treating cancer in this country. It just blows my mind. But that's a whole nother rabbit hole we won't go down right now. We're just talking about the numbers of investing. So then you look at things that you can do. For example, investing with a friend and buying a calf that's raised grass-fed organically in your state. And then when they raise it and they slaughter it, you're looking at about a $500, $600 investment to get half a cow. And now you've got the cuts that you want of beef, and it's organic, to put in your freezer. So you got like 2 years worth of organic beef for $500 or so. That's going to be less than $4 a pound. But yet you go to the store and you're spending $8 or so a pound now, and you don't know where it's coming from and what's been fed to that cow or what's been injected into that cow or pig or chicken or whatever. So making simple choices, it's actually equally or less expensive to eat healthier and do the right things once you flip the switch and start making the right educated choices in shopping and investing and getting those organic chicken eggs and local fruits and vegetables. Because if you get local fruits and vegetables, and don't quote me on this, but my understanding is if we go to our local farmers that go to the farmers markets and they're bringing their fruits and vegetables, they are organic for the most part, but they don't label them organic, or by law, they're supposed to pay these fees to call it that. And it raises the price like 3 to 6 times. So buy local, save yourself some money and support your local farmers, and it should be organic.
Those are, it isn't the main thing. You're taking care of yourself. You're getting a better nutritional, you're probably saving money the long haul, but you're supporting your local business as well. So you got a lot going on there. But a lot of people don't realize this. If we give our body the right resources, our body is a magnificent. We can't comprehend how magnificent it is and its ability to repair and heal itself, given the right resources. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people don't realize this, and you can, anything chronic that we end up that's out there, without being specific, it's generally in the making an average of about 8 years before the symptoms show up. Then we go, oh, I got something, and we turn to something that we expect is just going to mask the symptoms. Mm-hmm. It's not really, in most cases, I'm not a doctor, or but we take something to mask the symptom. Are we really getting to the root cause?
No.
Of what caused that?
Yeah.
And I think, people talk about what's genetics. Well, there's a lot of research showing that a lot of chronic illnesses, because family members had it, doesn't mean you'll get it if you're taking a proper protocols in your life. So any comment on that about?
Yeah. One of my favorite books of all time was written, I'm going to draw a blank on it. The Biology of Belief. Fantastic book by genetic research, and how we found that less than 4% of the ailments that we've been blaming on genetics for decades is actually from genetics. Most things are environmental, meaning the choices we make on where we live and what we're consuming and what we're, our lifestyle. So we think, oh, well, my parents had it, so now I have it. Well, there's a lot of things that's handed down from our parents to us, habit-wise and environmental-wise, where we create a very similar situation to what we grew up in. But when you take twins, and he references the twins that were adopted and they're raised in different families, how drastically different their health is, because genetically they're the same, but their lifestyle was very different. So that's an important point to look at. So we look at epigenetics. What's happening before the genes that is really causing problems? And this is a really scary example. And I want to be careful how I phrase this, but I just like people to take a step back and look at the numbers of things rather than just following blindly. And again, I don't want to push the vaccine thing too much, but in the late 80s, the vaccine thing exploded for our kids. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was in high school, if I were to follow the chart for vaccines, I would have had 14 before I graduated high school. Do you know what the number is for a graduating high school student today?
I've heard the number, but go ahead and...
It's in the 70s, 38 of which are by the time they're 18 months. Now, all of us, if we live long enough, will develop some kind of cancer, according to the cancer researcher people. It's not a genetic thing. It's an old person's disease. Well, now, but not 40 years ago, but now we have wings of hospitals for kids with cancer. Is it because we're playing God with our immune system by injecting so many things in to try to alter our immune system that maybe we're creating immediate or latent onset of these other diseases? Like you're pointing out, it's sitting there cooking for 8 years or so on the average disease before it becomes a problem. So then we're chasing our tail trying to fix this latent problem rather than being proactive and making the right nutritional choices, the right health choices and stuff to be proactive and prevent stuff. That said, sometimes statistics just get us. For example, I lost my first wife to cancer, and she was a super health nut, and she did all the right stuff. Now, I look at it and think, I really believe there were some stress factors, because I believe she beat it naturally. But then when we got back from Mexico after beating it naturally and she was doing great, we had a series of weird events from a neighbor that was like shooting out her windows of her truck. I had to hire a private investigator and get the cops involved and figure out who this was. It's a whole big legal case still going on. But just sadly, a crazy neighbor was making her stressed out where she didn't feel safe in her own home. We had to move our home, and all of a sudden these things came back. So stress does affect our physiology. We look at college students. When's the time that they get the most sick in college? Finals week. Right? They're mentally stressed out and they're maybe lacking some sleep, and it affects their physiology. So our thoughts definitely affect our physiology is where I'm going with that part. And then I'm going with, even though she was doing so many things right, still, sometimes things just get us, so we can't beat it. But we can definitely do the right things to help minimize our chances of these chronic disorders, cancers, chronic immune disorders. There's just a lot of things we can do, as these have exploded in the last 40, 50 years. This is another important, going back to our genetic thing. Genetically, if we look at the human race, have we changed much in 50 years? No, we haven't changed. We haven't changed much in a millennia. If you believe, depending on if you believe in God or the Big Bang Theory, whatever, it's been thousands of years we've been the same. And yet our diseases have exploded in the last few decades. It's not genetic. There's something going on in our environment and the choices.
There's some studies out there when let's talk on the nutrition, because I think this all comes together is that genetically we're all the same. We haven't, as a species, hasn't changed anything significant that we can detect or identify. But when we look at how chronic illnesses have progressed in our culture and our society, it's in direct relationship. If you see the amount of processed foods and the chemicals and everything else in there, they're in direct relationship. If you looked at that graph, Chronic illness and the amount of processed food that we consume, chronic illness is what we eat is so important.
What we eat is important, but there's a lot of changes that have happened over the course of the same time. And that's the industrial era, what you just mentioned with the foods. Though I would recommend a great book called The Comfort Crisis. And he really breaks down processed foods. And there's good with processed foods. If we didn't process some foods,
right.
But then there's also horribly processed foods. Like, I kind of want to pick on name brands, but like a Twinkie. How is that FDA approved? I mean, that thing's got more sugar and more artificial stuff in it than I can even count. But yeah, here it is on the shelves. It's just totally fine. Same with things like Doritos. You look at Doritos and you read the label, and oh my gosh, they taste so good. I love the taste of Doritos, but I see corn and a bunch of chemical words I can't even pronounce. So it's just funny, the things that we consider food that are not really food, but are man-made contraptions there. So there's been a lot of change in the last 50 to 100 years with industrialization, the change of modern medicine, and how we seek outside in palliation of our symptoms rather than inside out healing. And ultimately, as a chiropractic physician, look, I'm just going to tell you, all healing starts from inside out. All disease starts from inside out. So trying to do outside in stuff to fix stuff, it just doesn't work very well.
So, stress, you mentioned and losing your wife and having that stress come in, they know this stress is the number one cause of chronic illness. So how we manage our emotions is so important, getting therapy or getting counseling or understanding your emotions is so important, part of that health. If, just managing stress is so important. Absolutely. And that could be just making that investment to shut down everything and get out of town for the weekend and sit by the lake and just connect with the nature or whatever. Sometimes just get rid of that stress and find a way to do it without that medication side of stress reduction, anxiety.
Yeah, rather than going to a pill or a potion for our stress reduction, if we could just go exercise or go on vacation or go for a hike or a walk. There is so much in helping tone down the cortisol and the stress hormones and the inflammation hormones by just going out and taking a 20-minute walk without your phone. Huge difference to do that just daily or every other day to help us with stress and dealing with stress. I do like to mention one other thing. I think sleep is important. There's no doubt. Absolutely. We need to get good sleep. And there's quality sleep and then there's quantity sleep. Just getting a lot of sleep doesn't help. We got to get the good REM sleep. Right. And I'm just going to share with your listeners that 10 to midnight, the research shows, is the best time to get maximum REM sleep. So if we're going to bed the next day, we always got to go to bed before the next day is what I should be saying. And it's hard to just go to bed at night and go, oh, I'm going to go to bed early tonight, get a good night's sleep. Well, it's not going to work if we're not tired. We got to wake up early, push through our day, and then we can drop into a good night's sleep the next day. But to be the captain of your day, to wake up early and do a few simple things that start your day off right. Because again, we can't avoid stress, but we can definitely learn how to deal with stress better. And if we wake up and we captain the day and we invest in ourselves to start our day, because we have a lot of people that are usually dependent on us, employees, family members, that kind of stuff. But if we're not our best us, it's hard for us to best take care of family, kids, that stuff. So wake up early. Exercise some gratitude before your feet even hit the floor. Man, there's cool studies out there that show people who express gratitude to open and close their day have a lot more to be grateful for. Why? They're attracting what they're thinking about. They're changing their thoughts to think about more positive things and attract more positive things rather than always being stuck in the negative ruts. Because you and I are thinking 60,000 thoughts a day, 80% of which are the same negative thoughts we thought yesterday, unless we exercise that brain muscle by trying to focus on the positive, the gratitude, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You said something there, and I myself, being a personal development coach and studied how the mind works and how our behavior at the subconscious works, I studied from a gentleman, Robert A. Emmons, Gratitude Works, and it's a part of a principle I apply in my life. I teach it to my gratitude has empirical evidence, anecdotal evidence, what it does for stress and health. because you can't stay in a negative state,
Right.
which, and science knows this, and you probably know more about this than I would know. But somebody that's in a negative state, negative disposition, under stress, they can look at the biochemistry of a cell and see how it's performing, and it's not doing what it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's destroying itself, basically. Mm-hmm. And that person changes their attitude through gratitude or their thought process. Mm-hmm. That same person, that cell is performing at a healthier way. There's been those. Have you seen any of those studies that your thought does control?
I don't know if I've seen those studies that you're mentioning. I've just seen those really cool Japanese water studies where they'll even just put the energy of words towards water and see how the molecules change under the electron microscope. And since we're 80% water, our words or even our self-talk is hugely important, whether we're, cursing or blessing ourselves by using positive words versus negative words. We want to be careful how we talk about ourselves and others, whether they're around us or not. So unfortunately, I don't know the study you're talking about, but there's some other cool parallel studies out there that I haven't seen.
Yeah. And, that's where it's, when we hear somebody like us talking about these things, hopefully we bring some awareness to start investigating your thinking, because it's always a good thing to get better in your thinking. There's nothing negative about that, right? Mm-hmm. And what impact it has on our health, that's a whole conversation that can be investigated as well. But, we started talking a lot of different things, but on the holistic, you being a chiropractor, you were never putting, I call it, in a silo. You were giving a different perspective of health. In our medical school, they're very rigid in what the disciplines they teach, and that's what they come out as, and that's what they're going to practice. You want to speak to that a little bit about what the philosophy around the holistic chiropractic?
Well, I'll address it this way. And that when I was in undergrad studying up at the University of Utah, I was doing research in the obstetrics and gynecology division. And the doctors almost talked me into staying there and giving my medical degree and just becoming an OBGYN. But like I said, I wanted to be a chiropractor since the 5th grade. But I did go downstairs to the School of Medicine and look at it. And I compared the first 2 years of the curriculum, and they were neck and neck, medical and chiropractic. Lots of anatomy, physiology, lots of embryology. And then the medical stuff went into all the pharmacology and which drugs interact negatively with this one. And you had to do these long rounds to make sure you were learning that stuff well enough so you didn't mess up your prescriptions, versus going into more nutrition and 300 hours of x-ray versus 50 because we take and read our own images. All the chiropractic, well, not all of them, you can only take so many. There's 140 different chiropractic techniques, but one doctor can only be good at so many. So we could pick the techniques we chose the best, that like the best, and specialize in those. And then we just have so much ongoing nutrition. It just resonated with me better to help the body help itself naturally than get so drawn into the drug arena. So that's where I stuck with that. And now I lost where we're going with the question on it. Sorry. So I've noticed over the years with my medical friends how they are so limited. Their hands are so tied to be able to research and think for themselves to help their patients, where for me, I feel like the sky's the limit. And I'm really grateful for that. And I'm grateful for our medical model for trauma care and things like that. It's amazing. But for healthcare, I struggle with the fact that they get pinned into following flow charts, or they risk losing their license. So 20 years ago, I had a medical doctor friend who was developed cancer. And she wanted to do things naturally. And as she talked to her medical friends, they couldn't prescribe anything other than chemotherapy, or they were at risk of losing their license. And now we're seeing this here. Fast forward to today, California just passing a law where if a medical doctor, or I guess even a chiropractor, anybody in California who speaks anything antagonistic to the rhetoric of the vaccine stuff and the COVID treatments, are at risk of losing their license. If you suggesting like, oh, here, why don't you try vitamin D, that kind of stuff. There you go. Politics and health. They should not be together, for sure.
Yeah.
So
that's got to be frustrating when you go to your oath and do no harm and want to find the best modalities, the best solution, to help that patient or your become well again.
Right.
That's got to be really frustration. I'll share this with you, and it's Dr. Maureen Hayes. I'll give credit for this. Her and her husband, she was an anesthesiologist. Her husband was also in spine surgery doctor, okay, down in Texas. And one day they're driving to the hospital where they were working. And she was just saying, and she drove up, and the parking lot is full, big buildings and all this. And she said to her husband, "We're failing as healthcare practitioners." And he said, "What do you mean?" He says, "If we had the ability, the freedom to do what we're capable of doing, these parking lots wouldn't be as full. There wouldn't be as big as messes." And that's a pretty powerful message when somebody that recognizes that we're really not, in many cases, not always, making progress to get people healthy versus, and that was a profound awakening that she had.
That is, but she's also coming from a disease care model. She's 100% right. If we're doing a good job in healthcare preventing diseases, then that parking lot should be less full. But the gym parking lot should still be full. The organic grocery store parking lot should still be full, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's where you were kind of starting off in the beginning of, are we trying to do things where people don't have to keep coming in? I think in some modalities, they shouldn't have to repeatedly come in. Yeah, if they're doing disease stuff, we want to minimize those parking lots.
Yeah.
But healthcare, true healthcare, people should be busy doing those things. They don't always require us to go somewhere. We can just go for a walk out our front door in our neighborhood and
exactly.
wave at our neighbors. Anyway, so that's a very profound statement.
Yeah. That changed what she was doing in her practice, and she made some very significant shifts to be able to impact people differently. I know you've got you've got some books written.
Yes.
How can people find out about that? I've got scrolling across the bottom here, Doctor. Those websites, are they correct? Can they get any information?
DrJShetlin.com is great for the books and for public speaking. The private practice in South Jordan, I'm sure your listeners are from all over the country. They probably won't be overly interested in that, but just happy to help spread good health and hope. And I think that's the number one thing that us doctors need to spread is hope. Medical, chiropractor, DO, whatever, we should be selling hope, not fear, because fear leads to stress and makes us more sick. And hope is empowering. I think giving us the strength of mind, body, and spirit to do better each day as a patient or individual, to empower ourselves to need less outside in widgets to help ourselves be healthy, to make better nutrition choices and supplement choices, water choices, sleep, go to bed the right time, those kind of things. These are important, simple things that we can do. And I just want to say thanks for having me on today. And, I really looked seriously even into getting into politics last year. I was thinking even of running for governor because I was so frustrated as a physician to see how politics were manipulating medical, or medical was manipulating politics. And it was, So I looked very, very seriously at that. That's not my calling. I've realized I need to be in the trenches rather than out doing that. But in the trenches with love and sincerity and happiness and hope and natural things to help my community be healthier. So from that.
Well, a lot of people are thinking we're going to talk about chiropractic techniques and what you do. And if you do this, you get this type of, the holistic thing, you're part of that whole, what I call community that people need to wear. You mentioned something, and I know there's a lot of different modalities in chiropractor. What is your primary discipline? Where do you focus on? Because there's so many different ways to approach the body with chiropractic. What are the things that you do in that space called chiropractor?
Well, my office is a split about 50-50. I'm a certified auto accident injury rehab specialist, and I train doctors and attorneys across the country on how to properly work up, diagnose, treat, co-communicate with other medical doctors, chiropractors, neurologists for concussion injuries, and the attorneys, because it's a medical legal case. They're very complicated, and unfortunately, some people get lost in the system by not going to the right doctors and getting the right care, and it's a bummer. And then on the other side, I just have a beautiful family wellness clinic where we're very education oriented. We do the dinner talks for our patients every couple of weeks. We have families come in getting healthy and staying healthy together. We just do hands-on adjusting, a little computerized instrument adjusting, and we've got chiropractic, physical therapy, massage, oxygen therapy with hyperbaric oxygen treatments, a lot of cool stuff. I'm really grateful to be where I'm at, and wish I could have gotten here 20, 25 years ago, but it's practice. It's an evolution with your learning and what you can apply and with your community.
Wonderful. And we'll close out with this. When one is seeking out a practitioner such as yourself, what would you advise them to do in that search process? Find the right, what are the things? And I think that's sometimes you feel it. It's not just something, letters behind somebody's name, but what would you recommend that somebody, when they're seeking out a professional like yourself, what would be the things that they really would want to know?
Well, you've got to find the right one for you. Chiropractors have 46 different diplomate specialties after graduating as a general chiropractor, pediatric chiropractor, sports chiropractor, auto accident specialist. Unfortunately, some people go to one chiropractor and think, oh, I've been to the chiropractor. I've tried one, I've tried them all. That's like saying I went to a medical doctor. I tried one, I tried them all. It's just not that way.
Okay.
You've got to find the right one for you. It's a fit with it philosophically, and you like the techniques they use.
In relationship to maybe what's going on in your health, and find that match.
Yeah, absolutely. So be patient, and what I'm saying is either shop around or give it a fair run. This is the funny thing. And I'm going to quote Dr. Terry that I work with, and I think it's brilliant. We have people come in, it's like, oh yeah, I tried chiropractic. I went to a chiropractor for 2 or 3 visits down the street. And he says, you didn't try chiropractic. Chiropractic is definitely beginning with the end in mind. They're working up and diagnosing and seeing how long they give you a time frame, because your body heals over time. It doesn't heal in a number of visits. So give whoever you try as a chiropractor a shot. Don't just test it. You got to give it.
And that goes across the board. We consult with massage and some of the nutritionals that we do. It's your body has to take its time, and everybody's body is going to respond at different speeds, or whatever you want to call it. We always tell people, give this modality, give this at least 90 days.
Right. 90 days is a great window.
Yeah. And then because a lot of times we do not know what feeling healthy is. Mm-hmm. We haven't experienced in a long time for one reason or another. Yeah. So that advice goes in there, is give it a realistic time to see your body be able to do what it's capable of doing. And so, Doctor, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm here to support you and what you're doing anyway, so you can always reach out to me, promote your book, or whatever the case may be. I'm glad I caught your interview with Ken Walls, and you're making a difference in the world. With that, I'm going to put you in the back room and let you you probably got patients lighting up out there today, so I'll let you go. Just hold on for a minute, and be right back with you. There we go. Own your own health. Another perspective. This speaks my language. He does it much more clearly than I do, but I have a strong passion to help people better understand. Take ownership of your health. Don't turn it over blindly to others. Ask the right questions. Take ownership of your own health. I appreciate Dr. Shetlin coming in today. He did a wonderful job. I appreciate him. With that all said, everybody have a great day.